And after the war, he wasn't too popular. But those handwritten manuscripts of the history of Rutherford County never were published. They ended up in Mississippi in a wardrobe.
Is that right?
We got them, the Historical Society, Rutherford County Historical Society got them, published them, and I'm as proud of those as anything else.
And so are they on display somewhere, Toby, where you can see them?
Yes, we've got those for sale even. We've got a location on North Maple Street, just off the square there, a couple of blocks, and we have a storage area. And so we have had like an open house, and we publish a list that's on the internet of the various publications that the Historical Society has, and so those things are available all the time. Now we have say many things that are in book form, like the ones that Ernie just mentioned, but we also have those things that were actually published by the Historical Society, which are paperbacks, and all those, which there are actually many of those, and they're only $5 a piece. Now the ones that I find to be very popular down here in the Smyrna area are those that have a selection in there of maybe 20 to 40 pages, like on the history of Old Jefferson or the history of Jefferson Springs. There's one that has all the stores on Old Jefferson Pike between Florence Road and the Mona Road. And then there's another one on the history of Stones River that I just read for the first time just recently. There's about 40 pages tracing all the way back from the early Indians all the way down to when the county was actually settled and developed. So those are the ones that I found to be the most popular. Also, the history of the Air Force Base is a very interesting.
Well, tell me something. The Jefferson Springs and Jefferson community. Tell us how far apart they were and where they would be today in proximity to Jefferson Pike.
If you go down Jefferson Pike today,
where the bridge is, the main Jefferson Pike.
Past the bridge, let's say, for example, if you're going from Guildsville,
yes, sir,
and you cross the bridge and you look around downstream, and there's the boat dock and everything downstream. Yeah. If you go to the first road to the left is now called South Lamar Road.
Yes, sir.
And so immediately to the right was like the heart of Old Jefferson Spring, which was the resort type town. And it came about in the late 1800s, and especially during the early 1900s, all the way up to the war, really. And it was just located really just a few feet off the highway. And there, if you turn left on the South Lamar Road, you still see some of the houses that are left, and so everything to the right is destroyed.
Oh,
and
okay.
That was Old Jefferson Springs. We call it Sulphur Springs. They built a bridge across that was finished in 1914. Now, the old town of Jefferson was like 100 years before that. Yeah. In say 1803, when the county when they first requested that Rutherford be made into a separate county, then Jefferson came into being as the first county seat, and it was about say roughly by the water. It was probably only less than a mile and a half.
Yeah.
If you went around by the road between the two, it was more like, I'd say, 2 miles. Wouldn't you, Ernie?
I'll agree.
Somewhere around in there.
Yeah.
When we come back, we want to talk a little bit more about Percy Priest and how that project really changed this particular area in our last segment of the program. So let's take that break now. We'll be back with more Rutherford issues here from the North Rutherford Y in Smyrna, Rutherford YMCA in Smyrna, along with County Commissioner Mike Sparks. I'm Bryan Barrett, and we've got Toby Francis and Ernie Johns. Toby, you live in this neck of the woods still?
Yes,
I know we've talked to you about the Jefferson Springs project, and is it the Jefferson Springs?
Well, the
old Jefferson community.
The one that I've been involved with most would be the say the hikes that go to the old town of Jefferson.
Oh yeah.
And and we Mike has been on those before. Just
beautiful area. It's beautiful out there.
And
he's talked about that on the. He went over there and got on some of the equipment here at the Y and came back and was out of breath. And maybe we both need to go over there on a hike.
That's some dips. You know, dips are.
Yeah, well, I know I see one. But
all right.
Just kidding. This Percy Priest project really changed a lot of lives here, Ernie, did it not? Back in, what, mid-60s, mid to late 60s?
Anytime the government takes over, takes your land, condemns your land, and gives you $300 an acre for good farmland, it's going to affect your life. If you've owned the land for 100 and something years, and it's bound to affect people's lives, just like it affected the people in Smoky Mountains Park when the government took their land.
Yeah.
Some of them fought it, and they ended up with nothing.
Well, I guess in my time, one of the bigger controversies in my area of Rutherford County where I live was when they were talking about 840 and what route was 840 going to take. And that's, I know a project that kind of spans a longer time in multiple counties and things of that nature, but that's kind of what you're talking about. And they come in and they offer you whatever they want, I guess, right?
Well, they thought it was market value, and maybe in the early 60s, maybe market value was $300 for good farmland, but it's certainly not market value today.
That would have been a whole lot more valuable to you now.
More valuable then.
Yeah.
And the actual value, the actual price that was paid for land varied. Like the farm where I came up, grew up on 145 acres, which is upstream from Fate Sanders area, between Fate Sanders and say the Jefferson area. They paid us $217.50 an acre. Now, I think it had a lot to do. With what kind of physical health the people were in. Now, like my father had already had a heart attack at the time, and just to even talk about putting forth, say, any resistance, he would just absolutely panic.
Yeah.
And so we ended up taking the first offer, and so. There were some, like Mr. Peyton Smith, who lived, say, within the Jefferson area. Even when he died, they had not made the final settlement yet. So my family settled with the government like in 1965, and then that was about halfway between the actual. Starting of the dam itself was in 1963, and it was actually dedicated, say, almost 5 years later. In 1968. So toward the very end of 1967, the water was being closed off. The one picture that we have that we've been looking at here, I was showing this in August of 1967, and then there's a comment here later that 2 months later they were actually closing the water off, and then in the middle part of 1968, President Johnson came down, and they had a large float thing, and they went down to the dam, and they actually made the formal dedication. So the actual price paid, depending on if it was on a major highway or if it were bottleneck. Now, like the farm that I grew up on was about of the 145 acres, about half of it was tillable land, which was along next to the river. We extended a lot, say, with the river. It was upstream from Fate Sanders, and it was a long stretch there on the south side of the river that we had a lot of good bottomland. Plus, we had land that was forested, like with cedar and oak and that sort of thing.
Well, didn't Senator Fred Thompson, didn't he represent the Corps at the time? Because I know Miss Jones that lives out there, she's still upset. She didn't like Thompson still because of that. I think he was supposed to be an attorney representing the Corps.
He may have been. They had back in those days, and usually the government does. They have what they call the good appraiser and then the bad appraiser. They come as a team. So one will come out and maybe might offer you $200 an acre. He'd be the good one. And the next one come out, if you didn't settle with the first one, he might offer you $150. And he'd be a little contrary with you, a little mean to you. You better take it what he offered. They'll go take it to court and get you.